We'll do that whole.
Yeah, there you go.
Good evening, folks. Welcome to Wildstorm Studios. My name is Richard, and I'm joined by Albert. And this is a very special sort of pre-recording of our usual Wednesday stream, which is taking place on a Thursday evening, kindly sponsored by ESCOM. And it's a special stream because it's just a bit of a touch base with some of the new folks who might have jumped on board since Comic Con, and a bit of news and feedback on Comic Con, as well as then some news and updates of things happening in the near future. So, with that, Albert, how are you, sir?
Oh, I'm good. No complaints.
How's your week been with regards to recovering after Comic Con?
My feet were sore. Let's just leave it by that. Standing the whole day was not a good idea. Not that we had
Well, the
any
funny
other
thing is,
options than not standing,
no,
so
no, yeah, that it was a bit of a killer that they had it spread up across 3 floors of the convention center. So it was no small feat running between the 2 floors and up and down, and over 4 days was torturous on the old bones, to say the least. The funniest thing is that the biggest injury I came out of it was actually on that evening when you dropped me off,
mm.
and I slammed my finger in the car door.
Oh yeah. I see you got
Got
a nice little mark there.
my nail is blue. So after 4 days of Comic Con and running around all over the place, it was a car door banging on my thumb that left me with the only serious injury.
No broken
But
models
yeah,
though, so that's better.
no broken models this time. Yeah, everything arrived safely. Everything's in one piece. Don't jinx
Yeah.
it. But yeah, like I say, with tonight, what we wanted to do is just give a warm welcome to all the new folks who might have taken advantage of the trial membership that we offered out at Comic Con. And just to let folks know about some of the benefits and why become part of this Discord. And then we'll lead straight into a follow up on Comic Con itself. So, just very briefly, we, as might have been mentioned at the con or during our presentation, or you might have read before, we follow the philosophy of share, motivate, and inspire. And we hope that that's the philosophy that everyone follows within this Discord community. And with that, there are certain benefits. So we just want to touch base on those very, very briefly for you. We promote the fact that you be as active as possible. So the more active you are, the more points you receive on a server level basis. So the higher your server level points, the more you obtain discount levels to take advantage of when purchasing a Pandemonium Games. We've also got print orders from Madness 3D, where we do a shortened catalog of all the miniatures they get every month, which you can then pre-order every month and have them delivered directly to you. We've also got giveaways. We've got community events, one of which we're about to actually discuss tonight. And then you also get access to products and certain ranges of products that are usually directly targeted at painters and the hobbyist side of things. And being members of the Discord, you get access to some of those products early at Pandemonium Games. Right. So we're going to leave it at that and move straight on to the news so we don't bore everyone else that is well aware of these benefits and already taking part. So yeah, Albert, thoughts on Comic Con? How did you find the experience and the day's events?
It was long, but fun. It was, I always like to kind of, whenever we do the odd event like that, not at that scale though, but whenever you do meet somebody, I like to equivalent it as, it doesn't matter if you meet somebody new in the hobby in a hobby store or at a big event like this, you kind of have to approach it as in the same kind of mindset. Like I like to teach. I've got a lot of knowledge I can share, and it's always the particulars where you have to choose what to share, not like
Mm,
just
mm.
dumping all your knowledge on this poor person and throwing the whole handbook at them. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it was fun. It's great to see people trying stuff for the new first time. It's always
Mm,
that fun spark, kind of takes you back to when you had your first box and you're building stuff and you don't know what the
mm-hmm.
hell you're doing, but nonetheless you're enjoying the process.
Sure.
There was a few funny moments. Some one things I can't really put in my own words I said there, but it was always funny when one guy he opened a pot of Corex White, and it was just this
Yeah.
chunky mess. And he like looks at it like all disgusted. I'm like, put that away, but not like how I would have said it. But then I said like, rather take this white paint. This is gonna work better. So it's always fun like seeing people paint for the first time, obviously. So yeah, no, I would also say all in all it was a good day, but that's jumping a little bit ahead of schedule. But I don't know if you want to take it kind of where pick up, drive, get Julio set up.
Yeah, look, we can go through a sort of step by step of the day, but I don't know if we want to bore folks to death with like a run by play of the day. But just some highlights of the day for me was the fact that we actually had a decent location. I was worried on the first day, Thursday, before you guys got there on the Saturday, uh, to not surprisingly discover that they hadn't allocated the stand to us and that there was a bit of confusion and miscommunication. So at the last minute, I run off with Big Mo, our chap at Comic Con, who's a fantastic individual and was the great guy who actually got us involved with Comic Con. And we find the location, but at that time of the day, the lights on that side of that showroom were actually switched off. And it was a rather dark space. So here I'm worried going, yeah, come and do a painting competition in the dark and paint your first miniature in the dark. It's going to be so much fun. So
No, it's realistic. It's usually what we have to do. So at least it's fitting the theme of the daily struggle.
I know we're preparing people for the South African landscape, but we don't have to seriously put them in the dark and paint miniatures. But yeah, so I got a bit hesitant. I know I packed 2 extra lamps and brought those with me just in case. Thankfully, we didn't need them because on the day they had the lighting switched on for that side of the showroom floor, and everything was fantastic and it was great, and there was enough light. Albeit that, yeah, for the next Comic Con, I would love for us to have lighting on the tables and things like that. But yeah, it was awesome in that regard. Except for the moment where you dumped me and left me to be interviewed on Chinese TV. So thanks for that one.
No, I have to skip my chance when I get the chance. Well, the funny part was actually they were looking at Julia's models because it is like Chinese, Japanese inspired. And he was standing next to me, and they're like, no, they want to talk to the artist. And I was like, shame, poor Julia is not going to cope with this. So I'm like, point at you, I'm like, talk to that guy, he likes talking. So you were stuck there for like 20 minutes while me and Julia were having a nice giggle.
No, for sure. I mean, look, I just played you the little playback that they sent me from China Radio. So yeah, it was quite hilarious that I ended up being broadcast on China Radio for that particular interview. Thanks for that one. But yeah, I think that's part of the fun of a Comic Con. It's vastly different from like Thunderbrush. Thunderbrush, I know the majority of people walking into Thunderbrush and that I'm meeting for the day are either folks I already know personally, or folks I know through the Discord or through the community at large. And those that I don't know are usually family and friends of those people. And most of the people are there for one purpose, Thunderbrush. So there's no confusion as to why people are there. Whereas at Comic Con, it's a different ballgame. Comic Con, there's such a variety of people. There's some people there who are there for the comics, they're for cosplay, they're for gaming, they're for streaming and podcasting. There's just so much on appeal now that your audience is so varied and so wide. So a lot of times we had people who have no idea what we're doing and are just interested and curious. And now you've got to quickly, in a very short nutshell, give them a summary of what it is that we do, what it is that we're trying to have people do on the day, and that's come and sit down and paint a miniature and enjoy the experience. But yeah, it's a lot of fun because at least you get to meet such a variety of people and get to share what it is that we do with such a variety of people.
Yeah, I think it was also like we can talk about our presentations during the day, but I had my presentation on Saturday, you had yours on Sunday, and I don't know. I tried to do the old trick where you just kind of like scan above the people's head and not like look directly at them because you just lose your train of thought. But yeah, it was fun because I think all in all I had about like 10 seats empty, so it was a max 50 seats, so it was about 40 people. And it was one of the cases where my presentation went through, and then I decided the night before just to add like a Q&A session afterwards. So obviously during this whole video, I'll add the little photos in, little mental note while watching this again. So it was fun because I think we had like probably like a 10-minute Q&A session where there was a lot of different questions asked, where ranging from hobbying on a budget, telling them what to spend money on and what not to spend money on, people asking enamels, oils, acrylics, people asking about airbrushes, and then and luckily I'm at this stage in the hobby where I played with a lot of things, obviously not mastered any of them, but at least I got the tools to give a decent explanation to people. So that was fun, and I'm gonna I don't remember who introduced me, but I'll I'll put a little tag.
I know who you're mentioning. Yeah, yeah.
I'll put
I
a
got to meet him on the Sunday. Yeah, yeah, I
yes.
got to meet him.
So I'll put a little thing on the bottom. But yeah, it was nice because even though my whole thing kept on going about introduction of painting your first 3D model, I did put in obviously all the photos of Thunderbrush and stuff like that, saying that this hobby is great and everything, but for me as a South African, I want to say artist, painter, the other 50% of it for me is the community aspect. Painting to
Yeah, yeah.
talking to people like Andre and Julia and yourself and Waldy and Mike, and then having people inspire me to try different things like jogs, tanks, and me doing a very small scaled down version of it. There is different aspects. So for me, it's not fully investing all of my time into the painting side. Obviously, being the second in command of the Discord, it kind of it lends itself to kind of take more charge in that, splitting it 50-50.
Yeah, yeah.
So getting back to the original point I was trying to make was I want to say introduction person said like it's interesting for him to see that he did mention that so much of the word community comes up without me having to, pitch the whole the whole
Yeah, yeah,
Discord
yeah.
idea. But it was nice seeing that at least came through on the other side of me having not to say too much about it. So, but yeah, it went all good. I did try to tease Julia a little bit because obviously he beforehand said no, he's going to come with because he wants to bust my balls during the presentation. So
He wants to heckle in the background and be
yeah,
that one guy that asks that one annoying question. Yeah, yeah.
so I had this one slide of a few of us, our first miniatures looking very beginner level, obviously, and then I had slides where the newer models came through, and everybody was like, "Ooh, ah," and I said like, "Yeah, this artist is sitting right over there," and you could see Julia kind of just shrinking into his chair. So I got my
Yeah, yeah.
my share in there, but yeah,
Well, this is the thing that for me gets me excited because what you guys must understand. That's my hope is that you guys and the next up and coming Thunderbrush winners and things like that become the faces of this community. So yeah, you got to get used to us calling out your name and making people pay attention to who you are.
yeah.
So I'm glad you did that to Julia. Julia, if you're listening.
But yeah, it was
Nice.
it was nice because then obviously after my presentation, me and Julia was like, well, I still chatted to people afterwards and told them like, okay, free to go upstairs next to the Red Bull stand. There's the desk and stuff. And I would say, unfortunately, we're also used to we have to kind of drag people to do our part of the hobby. So me and Julia's like, no, it's fine. The people will show up a little bit later. We did like a quick stroll just through the bottom part. And then when we
Yeah.
got upstairs, all the tables were full. You were running around. We're like, oh shit, we should probably hop out quickly, yeah? But yeah, it was a
Yeah,
case
see
of,
that I think that's why, sorry to interrupt,
hmm,
but that's, I think, why the timing of your presentation being that 10 and we were starting the competition or the painting session at
hmm,
10:30 actually was amazing because at 10:30 it was almost like I already had people arriving at the tables
hmm,
and they must literally come straight from your presentation and come straight to us
yeah,
and sat down. By the time you guys got back from the presentation, we were full up and going, which was
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
And
I
the other
keep on
thing that you
forgetting.
just mentioned, yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I keep on forgetting the number of miniatures we had. Was it 85 or?
Right. So if I recall correctly, I had, I think, 57 miniatures there at the event
Hmm.
that had been primed and set up and ready to go. Um, one miniature came back broken, so I know that that means that we had 56 miniatures that were painted,
Hmm.
because none of those came back. Everything went at the con. So
Yeah.
very, very, very happy to hear that we managed to get 56 miniatures, considering that I heard that less than half of that were painted uh, at the previous Comic Con up in Joburg. So that was awesome to see that we managed to double up on that number to have so many people sit down and paint miniatures, which was
Yeah.
mind
I
blowing.
forgot to mention where there was two girls and their mom, and it
Mm-hmm,
was like on the tail end where like luckily somehow I got it right because it was a case of there was 12 seats available for people to sit down and paint, and it was a case of
mm-hmm,
okay, the tables are full, come back at this time. Okay, then those people finish up, the next group comes in, and somehow I got it right to have one miniature left
mm-hmm,
for the day, but I think that got also painted or given away to one of the people that spent quite
mm-hmm.
a lot of time painting. So obviously you want to
Yeah.
invest into that new spark.
Mm-hmm,
But it
mm-hmm.
was a case where I had to ramble through the box and take one of the unprimed miniatures and actually glue that and give it to their mom. So
Yeah, yeah,
you can
yeah.
add one more model to that list.
Yeah. Well, see, for me, that's what got me really happy was is that it wasn't just the hobbyists,
Hmm.
and what I half expected was folks we knew were coming to Comic Con and purposefully wanted to come and find us and sit down and paint a
Hmm.
miniature. Shout out to the guys from the Discord who did come through. Um, but it was what was really heartwarming for me was to see like mom and dad sit down and paint the miniatures with their kids.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just mom and dad sitting along while they waited for their kids. Mom and dad actually picked it up a miniature and started
Hmm.
painting. And that was really cool and fun to see entire families sit down and paint miniatures, which was awesome.
Yeah.
That was really, a lot of fun to see. And then, like I said, it was a lot of fun to see people like Anissa, who had reached out on Facebook and then purposefully came to Speedbrush
Hmm.
at Comic Con to find us, brought her paints, brought her paintbrushes, and really wanted to meet us and be part of
Yeah.
it. So that was really, really cool. And like I said, the day was just crazy because we had to, like you said, we had to slot people in at certain times because we only had about 12 seats,
Hmm.
give or take. So we ended up having to book sessions and ask people to come back within half-hour chunks so that we
Yeah.
could cater for everyone. And I think by what was it, about 3 o'clock, we were actually turning people away because we had no more
Yeah, we
miniatures, and
had nothing.
all that we had left was already reserved and secured
Yeah.
for those that we had asked to come back later. So yeah, all in all, it was a really massive success. I was really, really proud of how the event played out.
Yeah. That is a surprising thing that happened during the day, and because me and you and Julia were obviously then was all work, and Henry had two of Henry's models, and then obviously Chris's model was also there.
Mm.
Is there was no, it was just a normal display of the models, and the amount of people asking, "Is this for sale?"
Yeah, yeah,
It,
yeah, yeah,
it was a
yeah,
good
yeah.
feeling, I must admit. Not
Yeah, yeah.
necessarily
Look, I
talking
think
about my models, but that's what you want to see because
yeah,
obviously if
and
the
look,
stuff
I
sells.
think a lot of us forget that at the end of the day, some of the stuff that we produce is at a level that some people would love to actually pay and purchase
Hmm.
and keep in their collection. So that is something I'd love to actually have planned for next year, is to have commission artists who are in the field of what we do, potentially have a space at our stand where they can put their statues up for sale and so on and so forth.
Hmm.
And therein, opportunity for guys to make a little bit of extra cash from their work, but also the pride of having someone love your piece that much that they're willing to actually pay money for it.
We
And
just have
that
to be very
in its
far
own
away
is a
from the
compliment.
symbiote people.
Yeah, yeah, we don't want to upset anyone. Of course, we don't want to tread on any toes, but I don't think we compete with those things. I mean, those statues,
Uh,
just the size of those things were just unreal. Um, Look, I love those statues. I think my favorite has still got to be the Lobo statue on his bike with the pit
hmm.
bull, and that's still one of my favorites. But that's because I'm so old school, Lobo all the way. But yeah, look, we're not competing. What I did notice is how many stands were selling pre-painted, prefabricated, pre-boxed,
Hmm.
packaged statues left, right, and center.
Yeah.
And I'm going, man, some of the people I know on this Discord and in the community at large paint those things 20 times better.
Oh.
And I'm not being validated by people paying them for their real value and their real worth.
Mm.
So yeah, I think it's important for us to make that known and bring that more to the front and make people aware that there are guys who can paint these things so fantastically well that you'd
Mm.
be willing to spend money on them.
No.
Yeah, definitely something for us to consider for next year for sure. Because that was a big highlight for me. How many folks are interested in knowing are there prices on these things? Are they for sale? And we're like, well, not really.
If you
um,
ask nicely, that was my common response.
yeah, look, although for myself there were a few pieces there that were for sale, but I didn't want to turn the event into something where it's me making money.
Mm.
It was all community, speed brush first. It was about getting as many people to paint as many miniatures as possible. I took a really big shot with Funzel, and a massive thank you to Funzel and Manus 3D for donating all those miniatures. But where he was telling me, look, we did about 2025 at Joburg. How many should I print for Cape Town? And I'm going, dude, it's sold out. Let's go all in. There's no ways we're gonna have enough for 25. Let's go for 60, maybe thereabouts. And like I say, we got to about 57 or so,
Mm.
and to then run out.
No, I think
Still,
honestly, if we had more tables, I think we could
yeah,
have
yeah,
easily covered 120
easy,
people.
easy. Hence, now do you see why I say the hopes for next year? And I can almost be certain that we will be part of Comic Con again next year. I want a bigger stand. I want bigger seating arrangements. I want lighting for folks. I want to speak to the hobby shops and see if we can't get some nice palettes and brushes and everything for folks, and really make a big splash at Comic Con.
No,
So yeah,
have
very
wet
excited
pallets,
from
please.
that. Yeah, definitely some wet pallets. And preferably as many paint pots that are still in use and not bone dry.
Uh,
Look, at the end of the day, those bone dry paints ended up being a big bonus because I was like, let me show you the other trick with a bone dry paint. You put some press stick on, and now it's a miniature holder. Bob's your uncle, start painting. And the amount of dry pots I had, press stick on and had
mm,
folks painting was awesome. But yeah, things like that would be really cool to try and do a bigger thing next year.
mm,
With what we learned from this one. So very excited for next year. It was cool. Speaking of earlier with presentations, my presentation was a completely different experience to yours. I think it's because mine was right in the middle of lunchtime on the Sunday, uh, where
mm,
it started out. Once of course the previous interview session has completed, there's like this 15-minute window, and I noticed that the previous podcast had finished up, and it was this big 3-man interview on gaming development and such. And as soon as they wrapped up, the entire stage and the entire seating area just empties out, gone. And I'm about to go on stage, and it's 15 minutes, and I'm going, shit, am I going to be the one presentation where there's no one present? And I'm talking to crickets. Um, and then all of a sudden blink, and I'm about to go on, blink again, the guy's giving me the microphone, my presentation's up on the screen, and I blink and I turn around and look at the crowd, and all of a sudden it's full up, and there's a couple of rows behind that.
mm.
Yeah, the nerves all of a sudden shut in, hands are shaking, and the whole thing, trying to hold the microphone and not look like I'm shaking like a leaf. um, so yeah, it was quite a daunting task. But yeah, the host that you mentioned, lovely chap, really,
Mm.
really nice guy. He had actually mentioned to me how he loved your presentation, that he was now super excited to hear my presentation. So he was keen and excited and wanted to really take part in this particular presentation. So I said to him, I did the same thing as you. I've left a small Q&A at the end, and we can then open it up for discussion. He's like, yeah, that'll be great. I'll facilitate. That would be perfect. For some other reason, he got called away to some sort of emergency as my presentation started. So he wasn't there at all. So it was me on my own with the sound guy, and that's it. Do this presentation. And it was just crazy because at the very end, try to do a Q&A, and it's just me, and there's a noisy crowd, and the sound guy is not there because now he's sorting out another crisis. The host isn't there. So I just said, okay, folks, tell you what, I'll be standing on the side there for the next 10 minutes. If anyone wants to come and ask questions or scan the QR code, come and see me there.
Mm.
And we wrapped up. But yeah, it was, daunting and terrifying. It's not something I'm used to doing. But it was really cool because what I got to do was the opportunity of showing off all the good stuff.
Mm.
So my presentation revolved around showing off what some of the best in the world are doing these days, and some of the techniques people are pulling off, like non-metallic metal and object source lighting and good old Eric Swinson with cast shadows and all that kind of stuff. So I had the benefit of having these big screens show off some of the best miniature painters in the world on the big screen, and that's, I think, why there was such a
Mm.
draw on the crowd to come through and see what it is that I was talking about. But what was really fun was that, is that halfway through the presentation, the whole thing is about, well, that's what they're doing overseas, but guess what? We're doing the same thing down here. And I got to move into the whole Thunderbrush realm
Mm.
and show off the work of Julio and Chris and Hanru and yourself. And it was great because I had just shown them the best in the world. And I was showing the South African best as per Thunderbrush. And there was this, there isn't this like massive shift in loss of technique and skill. There's this equality where folks were seeing what I'd shown off from the top guys, and then looking at things like Hanru's piece with the resin pour and the leaves and foliage, and trying to explain to people very easily on a big screen, going, see the little horse and the rider? That's the only thing you buy. Everything else he did from scratch. And you could actually hear the crowd going, what? Really? No ways. Yeah. So it was really, really cool to get that kind of response from a lot of folks. But yeah, very excited to try and do more things like that, more
Mm.
presentations, more sort of brief spotlights into areas of what it is that we do. So yeah, Comic Con was cool, but yeah, I'm finished and exhausted as usual. And what's worse for me is I felt like the whole weekend, I kept pinching myself, going, didn't I go through this about a month ago, where I had my entire studio dismantled and everything's in pieces and everything's in boxes, and then I'm transporting myself all the way out to Cape Town and backwards and forwards over an entire weekend. And I'm going, I did do this just like a month ago, like for Thunderbrush. What
Yeah.
the hell? And here I am a month later doing it again. So I am absolutely finished and drained and exhausted again. But yeah, very, very excited for the next coming weeks and the plans that we've got, which we're going to now lead into next. Um, and just excited with the potential of stuff that's being talked about in the background, which I haven't been able to share with any of you guys just yet. But yeah, lots of things happening and just really excited, all riding from the back of Thunderbrush and now Comic Con and things like that. So very, very excited about how things have been going. Um, just yeah, nervous and hope that I can keep up the momentum and build something for you guys that people can really enjoy and be part of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you want to lead into the next thing? As I
So
take the
with that,
helm?
we're going to lead straight into our next segue, which is Albert. Do you want to
Yeah.
mention to the folks our next community event that we're busy
So
planning?
this is going to be the pre-announcement of the charity event, not the official
Yeah,
announcement.
let's call this. This is the teaser trailer, not the full trailer. This is the
Yes.
teaser trailer leading up to the full trailer.
So what me and Richard has been thinking of for this charity event, and we've got pretty much nailed down, is this will lead into what we need from the community of sort of things
Yeah,
is
I think it'll make sense once you explain what we need to do. Yeah.
yeah, so it's all wonderful that we somehow have managed to get a total of 12,000 something something, almost 13 grand for the hamsters
Uh,
last year.
yeah, I think it was actually 11,900 odd,
All right.
900 and change. So just shy of 12,000 rand. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we can count ourselves very lucky that we even achieved that, and obviously we're still proud of it. Everybody put in their work, and we've got all the models in one spot at the end of the day, and we've got the money to a good cause. But now this year we're thinking, all right, we've got to make it a little bit more approachable for everybody. So what we're thinking on doing is a battle scene diorama. Now this can be, depending on what we can get our hands on, it can be a flat table display. Ideally, which would be a little bit harder to do, would be a hang from the wall diorama, like a picture frame
Mm.
diorama. But okay, I'm not saying picture frame. I want
Yeah,
a
that's what I mean.
big picture frame.
Yeah, I think maybe the word picture frame is the wrong idea. We're talking about wall frame. We're talking
Yes.
about, if this is a big ass diorama kind of project, imagine the kind of size if we had to do something that would hang on a wall, or alternatively, if it's too big, it'll have to be something that'll lay on a table surface. But yeah,
Mm.
that's the current goal.
Yeah, so leading into that is we're thinking on obviously there's going to be surveys, but just to give you a rough breakdown without all the nitty gritties, we're going to contact or put out surveys asking people what models they have in bulk of, and this is going to be 40k, not Age of Sigmar, just because most people play 40k. It's going to be a little bit easier to get our hands on those models. We'll see
Mm.
if we can do
Well, we'll see.
either or.
Well, we'll see, because I think that's I think just to maybe explain to them the reason for the surveys. So we all know that most hobbyists have got pardon my French, a truckload of, you know, plastic unpainted grey sprues sitting in boxes and drawers and back of closets everywhere across the country. We know folks have got them.
And shops.
Majority, and the stores as well. Yeah. So we're going to be reaching out to the hobby shops to also see if they want to support us with this. So the reason why we want to do the survey is to lock down the most impact that we can create from our community members themselves, the Discord community. So we want to find out from you guys who's got the most of what sitting at home. So hence why we'll be doing surveys, because we're going to ask how many folks have got potentially 40k, which is going to be the one of the more popular ones, I can guarantee. But of that 40k, who's got a truckload of orcs, who's got space marines, who's got nids, who's got whatever. So we need to determine, and I don't want us to limit it only to potentially being 40k, although it just seems like it will be 40k because most of us have all got 40k in our collection. But to potentially have a scenario where it could be Star Wars miniatures, it could be a fantasy scene, who knows? But the hope is to have as many of these miniatures available to as many of the community members as possible, so that as many people take part in this. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why we need to do the surveys to determine what is the nature of our diorama. Is it a big fight between good and bad, or is it just one monstrous madness? Is it a zombie apocalypse? Is it a Star Wars scene or whatever? But we need to make sure that we can actually gather that many miniatures for whatever genre or scene we create. So yeah, Albert, if you want to carry on.
Mm. So yeah, that's basically the idea is we have to just put out the feelers, put out the surveys to see what we have our hand we can get our hands on, and it's going to basically follow the same principle as last year, where everything either gets, well, unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit of a back and forth, but it's just going to be once. So
Mm,
it's going to be a case of we try to get as much models we can to reach it. From that pile, we're going to do basically either just say take your pick. It's going to be say 4 or 5 models per person, because we want to
mm,
have a battle scene, not a small skirmish. So
mm,
we want
mm,
to have people take part, paint multiple models, and it's going to be a very easy principle of saying we've got YouTube to our disposal. But say, for instance, now if we want to paint Blue Boys, follow this Midwinter mini video. Paint brand
mm.
doesn't matter as long as the colors are coherent. That's good to go. If you want to paint Nurgle, that video. So everybody
Yeah.
has everything good to go from the start when they get models in hand. Follow this. Obviously, there's not going to be any special effects because we want to have the models still be detachable from bases so we can actually embed them into the diorama. So again, it's not
Yeah.
going to be a
Well,
playable table as well.
so therein lies the big plus. What we're saying to folks is this is not a big job for you. It's basically an opportunity for you, A, to get rid of some old miniatures you probably never were going to paint in the first place. The second thing is that you can paint them speedily. There's going to be recipes that we will have chosen via videos for folks to follow. But we're not looking for every miniature to look exactly the same, especially, for example, if we're doing orcs.
Mm,
We will choose a faction or we will choose a particular color of armor, but hey, knock yourself out with the rest of how the orcs look, because the orcs don't all look exactly the same. And I'm sure they must have varying shades of green, just like us,
mm.
human beings are.
Green, I don't know.
So,
There's something wrong.
um, and then in the same case, if there's an alternate faction, and let's just use Space Marines for an example, we as the designers behind this whole project will then choose which is the faction and what kind of recipe for folks to follow.
Mm,
And those that have then got into this and have volunteered to be the Space Marine guys painting Space Marines will then have a recipe that they all then follow. The nice thing is that what we're hoping is there's going to be a few folks out there that are happy to donate 5 miniatures towards the campaign. So we can really have this multitude of miniatures after a whole period of time. But I'm sure some folks might have spare and extra models that they're also willing to throw into this project. And that's for two reasons. A, maybe there's character pieces or terrain or large models that we would love to see in the scene. The second reason is that there might be folks in the Discord or beginners that don't have those miniatures, and we can then hopefully get fellow community members to share additional miniatures to other guys, so that as many people as possible are contributing 5 miniatures to the project, and so on and so forth. So we could really build a monstrous, pardon the pun, a big monstrous diorama kind of thing.
Yeah. So yeah, that's for now. It's the basic idea.
Mm.
So at least everybody knows what to expect. So it's not going to be a long drawn out process. It's going to be a mass diorama. So painting level is not expected to be super high. Obviously, if we do have some special characters, then we'll discuss that
Well, I think,
later.
yeah, I think that's where I actually, I'm sure we did mention it, where we had the idea, for example, guys like Julio and Hanru and yourself might be able to assist us with having special characters that we can then have painted up, that you guys then just focus on those particular characters, where they could be the centerpiece of the scene, maybe the two protagonists of each army, so that they can push those to a really, really nice, beautiful, high standard. They are also donating their time and commitment to that. And then you and I, of course, are going to be focused on building the scene itself and the setting itself. So there's a lot of little, facets involved, but it's getting as many people as possible. And the benefit is those that are contributing to painting the horde, you can paint them as beautifully as you want to, or you can paint them as fast as you want to, because at the end of the day, we benefit from having that mass number of miniatures on the table. The more the merrier, that they get lost in that horde and they get lost in that scene. But the cool thing is you still get to say, hey, you see that monstrous pile of orcs in the corner there? 5 of those are mine. And we're not limiting it to 5. If there are folks who want to paint 20 and contribute 20, awesome. But at least if potentially 5 miniatures, and based on the survey, we'll have more clarity as to what the setting of the scene will be and which armies we're actually going to be painting and building up. We've got opportunities where we can reach out to guys like Madness 3D and look through their catalog and find proxy models that would maybe then help with those who don't have miniatures, that they can maybe then get them printed from Madness 3D, so that they've got miniatures to take part in this. And like we just said earlier, we can reach out to the hobby shops and see if they've got spare old models all sitting in the back storeroom that were promotions and giveaway stuff that they've still got. So yeah, we hope to get as many folks as possible painting these things, send them all off to Wildstorm, so that we can then, myself and Albert, build the final assembly and put the whole thing together. And then we're going to raise funds for charity and see who gets to be the lucky bastard that takes on that whole entire thing. There will be maybe a caveat to every raffle ticket sold, and that is that there's a disclaimer: we are not held responsible for you not having enough space for this to be stored in your premises, but that's going to be your problem if you win it. And that's why we like the idea of potentially even having something that we could maybe potentially hang up on a wall and make it one of those relief diorama kind of things. We don't know right now. We can only lock it in once we know what we're actually building. Are we building a 40K scene? Are we building a reenactment from Star Wars, or are we doing something else? Who knows? We don't know what everybody's actually got out there. So hence the survey. There's going to be a couple of questions. Some of them will make sense. Some of them might not make sense to you guys, but try to take part in it as much as possible, because the more we know, the more we can then have a very clear idea of what we can actually get people to start with straight away, and they don't have to spend money or chase around for miniatures and models and things just to be part of it.
Yeah, I
Cool.
think that is
Yeah,
that.
awesome. And then, yeah, once we finish the survey and we've got answers and Albert and I are very clear on what we're going to build, that's when we said we will then do the full trailer announcement of what we're building and what we need everybody to get involved and start painting with. And when that launch happens, we'll have the recipes, we'll have a concept, obviously like a tissue paper with a little drawing of what we think the diorama will look like. And, therein on that launch is when you guys start painting and we start working on building up the frame and building up the whole project and getting it ready, so that there's this culmination of miniatures arriving and setting the scene as we build. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We will, of course, film as much as we can from what we're doing from our different perspectives, and folks will, of course, be sharing all their stuff from the Discord. So yeah, really exciting stuff. It's going to be a big one. I'd like to make it a really, really big uh, project and get as many guys involved as possible. Look, even if we go by simple numbers of 5 models per person contributing, we get 10 people involved. That's already 50 miniatures on the table. So if we can get 20, 30 people involved, we're talking about a nice serious scene. And like Albert said, the one extra benefit is you don't have to paint the whole miniature, just the miniature itself. You don't have to worry about the base. That's where Albert and I come in, where we're going to actually fasten these things onto the diorama. So it's going to be a permanent display diorama that someone could potentially have in their little man cave out there somewhere in the country, or even in one of the hobby shops if they want to contribute and hopefully take a chance in winning the raffle. But yeah, so I think with that, exciting stuff. Albert, is there anything else that you want to make mention of as we wrap things up?
Mm, news-wise, we can touch on news.
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right,
I
well.
know we had a big one with Golden Demon just this last weekend.
Well, yeah, no, I would say I'm much more pleased with. I think it's always just the case. UK Golden Demon is just so much better than Adepticon Golden Demon. I don't think it compares anymore. Obviously, the work does compare. The painters that compete, but I think the focus is much more proper and actually directed at Warhammer Fest. But yeah, no, I enjoyed all the entries. I don't feel like there's any yay or nay votes on my side. I liked all this
no,
stuff.
no conspiracy theory, no.
No, I don't think you can have a conspiracy
The man was
theory.
robbed.
No.
None of
Well,
that.
no, like I think when you watch the interviews like Cult of Paint Andy did with Alberto, he said like
I
at
listened to
that
yeah.
stage, at that level of work between their two models, it's a lottery. You either
It's a
win
lot.
it, you
Correct.
can't say
Correct.
one is better than the other. And I think it's this year it went pretty much, I would agree, it went for the same with all the categories. You're basically just in the lottery system. Well,
Yeah.
pick a
I
number.
think I think what was gobsmacking for me on the night we started sharing them on the Discord,
Hmm.
there was a couple of comments where people are like, "How did this not win?" and "How did this lose?" and stuff like that. And then I even found entries that didn't even place,
Yeah.
and they were incredible. And I'm going, "How did this not even come in the top 3?" But then
Hmm.
you've got to ask yourself, "But hold on, what nobody was saying is that how incredible was the level of work that the top 3 is so good that you must
Hmm.
think that the next 6 or 7 are just as good and just as incredible." So yeah, I wouldn't want to be a judge at that competition because, like you
No,
say,
I
it's
think they keep that all
how do
hush
you
hush.
judge? How do you judge between the 3 and go that one's gold? And when
Hmm.
you're staring at Arno Lazaro on the one side and you've got a
Yeah.
you know
I must say, also the one
David
thing,
Aroba on the other side, it's just
yeah,
nuts.
no, I think, yeah, as soon as you have UK Golden Demon, the Spanish people come a lot more, and then you got serious problems.
Well, I think that's why Golden Demon UK is so big, and why its skill level is so damn high is because the Spanish who are so good at it, the Italians that are so good at it, there's even the French that are so good at it.
The UK as well.
It's
The UK
no,
is
no.
a handful.
I'm including the UKans. What I'm trying to say is that it's easier for the guys in
Yeah.
Europe to just skip the pond and go to UK.
Hmm.
Whereas it's a bigger journey to go all the way across
Yeah.
the ocean to Adepticon and take part in Adepticon, carrying along all your miniatures and
Hmm.
all your stuff. It's a bit of a bigger journey.
Well,
So it doesn't surprise me that more of the Europeans pitch up at
hmm.
Golden Demon UK.
Yeah.
No
I would
surprise there.
like to add the one thing that they did say, which I thought was very nice,
Mm-hmm.
and I would say is a little bit more proper,
Mm-hmm.
is that the commended entries actually also got the chance to go on stage, have their work shown, and
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
got to
yeah.
have their, I want to also
Can
say their spot in this, or their
yeah,
time in the
yeah.
spotlight.
Their moment in the sun. Yeah, look, that's for me was heartwarming, and it was almost a case of when Alberto said that in the interview. I was like, Games Workshop has been listening because the guys coming out of Adepticon, a lot of them were upset by the fact that a there was hardly any mention of anyone else's entries, just the
Hmm.
winners, and that was it. There was none of the coverage of who else was even who else just even got a commended
Commended.
pin or anything like that. Um, that Games Workshop really doesn't support the painters at all, considering that it's a painting competition and that we put such a presence on Games Workshop as a painting competition. And the guys from Adepticon were I mean, Vince Venturella was like, I'm not competing at Golden Demon ever again. And I'm like, okay.
Well,
So,
it is understandable if
it was nice, but it was nice to see that the UK guys hopefully heard from that
hmm,
and made that effort. Because even Alberto said that the one thing I liked was that they called all the gold winners on stage
hmm,
before they announced the Slayer Sword.
no,
And that's a lovely opportunity where all the gold winners are on stage now. Those are all the guys that are viable for that Slayer Sword. But to give them yet another moment to be all on stage and to get yet another round of applause, but to realize that whoever wins, you're all amongst the same gold winning
no,
standard of painters. And that's really cool to see. Golden Demon was never like that.
hmm,
So, it was nice to see that they're changing and that they're making that concerted effort.
no. That
I
was
just wish they'd give their creative team a little bit more recognition.
yeah,
But that's a conspiracy talk for another night.
yeah, no,
The no hands discussion.
yeah. Oh well, each their own.
Or so it's the only hands discussion.
Yeah, but I think yeah, at this stage, UK Golden Demon, I've not heard a lot of bad things. So if it's not broke on their side, then fix it.
Yeah, yeah.
Just keep on going.
I, like I say, I think I was just really floored by the level of work. I
Yeah, no,
mean,
it was
and some of the stuff was just mind blowing. I think Arno Lazara's one stands out the most to me because
the little
never
diorama
mind,
one.
yeah, but never mind that you're doing non-metallic metal tech. Never mind that you're doing OSL tech. Never mind that you're doing a multi-piece little mini scene with multiple characters all
Hmm.
painted at a golden demon level standard tech. But why don't you just make it even more technical by making a flame effect, and you've got now reflective armor, and you've got alien creatures, and what the heck? How do you even start that from a technical angle?
Oh, no, I
Where
don't
you're
know.
like, what do I paint first? Lighting, composition? What?
No, I think
So
your
that
level
piece
of
just left me
understanding,
stumped.
if
Yeah,
the picture in your head, you have to have like 100% nailed down. There's no,
yeah,
you have
yeah.
to just
The
paint. There's no
vision,
doubting your vision.
yeah, the vision's got to be clear, and your understanding of how light reflects and travels on surfaces is going to be
Hmm.
so good that it becomes just paint and have fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just on another level. But what was really nice for me is that I had read somewhere that Alberto had won the Slayer Sword before I got to see his piece. And immediately in my head, I went Goblin or some sort of, Gobbo or one of his little signature little, orc characters.
Yeah,
And the minute it pops up and it's this amazing elf, and I'm like,
yeah,
shit,
no,
okay. He played a different game, and
yeah,
damn it, he goes and kicks it out the park with that.
no,
Nuts.
definitely. But I
Yeah.
think, yeah,
Uh,
me and Hunter and Julia joked around so much today of just like
mm,
you, when you when you have a group of people that can sit down and have good conversation where you can zoom into photos and you're like, how do you even incorporate blue reflections into this pale white gold? And you're like,
mm,
you see it but you don't understand. But yeah, it's one of those
yeah.
things like I mentioned to you on Benji's thing today with the water droplets
Mm-hmm,
base. It's
mm-hmm,
a good thing to try and learn how to interpret how things were done by just looking
mm.
at it, because it's
Yeah,
one of
yeah,
you can
yeah,
do simple things like if you see a lot of brush strokes, you know it's thicker paint. If everything's smooth as hell, it's probably glazes. If you see a lot of line fine dots, you know it's a lot of stipple glazing. So
yeah, yeah.
understanding how to break down things helps a lot.
Oh, one of the things I found really helps for me is to actually cut off the volume when I'm watching guys like Sergio and Arno, or any videos where, like even Eric Swinson, every once in a while I'll actually just mute it
Hmm.
and just watch what he's doing, because now I have to pay attention to the paintbrush, and I'm paying attention to the flow of the brush. I'm paying attention to the dilution of paint and all these little things that you tend to not focus on because you're so busy listening to what he's saying, and
Hmm.
whether it's entertaining or not, or is he giving you some pearl of wisdom, and you're so busy listening to what he's saying instead of actually paying attention to what they're physically doing and
Mm.
why they're choosing certain colors and how they're applying certain things with the paintbrush. And it's amazing how much more I've come to realize Sergio has this unique thing. It's very similar to my little cross-hatch
Mm.
pattern kind of approach, but I see him do it on everything from
Yeah.
non-metallic textures, and I'm like, that's his little signature, and you can see it's obviously his little twitching of the wrist and the fingers that creates that little jagged pattern,
Mm.
and it's become his signature, and it's what he really leans into. So yeah, it's important to not just listen to the guys, but to actually really pay attention by watching what they're doing or taking a look at a photo and trying to break it down. I was actually listening to a podcast with a comic book artist, and he was looking at he was having an interview with Travis Charest. He's one of my favorite comic artists, and the guy was saying that he's been around in the game for so many years that what he loves doing now is watching the new and up and coming guys and going, I can see how you did that. You did this and you did this and you built up this and you layered in this and you used this color and this composition. Gotcha.
Mm.
And he goes, the only times where he really goes, oh my gosh, is when he looks at work and he goes, shit, I don't know how you did that.
Mm.
And he is a seasoned pro painter artist for the last 20 years kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that for me is where I get excited when I look at something like Arno Lazaro's piece and I go, I know how to do non-metallic. I know about how to do Ursa. I can do a diorama. I can do multi-scenes, but how do you start what you did?
Yeah.
That for me is that moment where you go, shit, that's amazing work. You
No, definitely. I wanted to say something, but I completely skipped on it now.
know?
Anyway,
All good. Couldn't have been important, as they say. That's what my mom always used to say. Couldn't
uh,
have been very important then.
I almost wanted to say it should be a disclaimer as we're actually talking more our usual chats, and it's the after party. Oh, this is what I wanted to say.
Yeah, yeah.
Is I also mentioned it at the chat I had on Saturday. Is when you go on YouTube videos and you actually want to learn stuff, the more
Mm,
boring a video is to watch, the better it is for you to learn because you know that person's not there for entertainment value. He's there to sit and paint for 3.5 hours and he's doing his usual thing.
yeah, yeah.
10, 15-minute videos where 50% of it's editing, the other 25% is B-roll, the other
Mm,
15% or 25% is actual sitting down and painting. That's not
yeah.
too great to learn from.
Mm.
If it's boring,
Well,
you know you're learning something properly.
well, that's probably why I enjoy Sergio's videos so much because it's just music in the background and
Mm.
it's just him painting and it's just put it on and play. 9 times out of 10, I don't have enough time in my day anymore, so I actually just put it on double speed. So I'm not even listening to the music. I'm just
Yeah.
watching what he's doing and I'm going, okay, cool, I gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. And there's
Mm.
always a moment in those videos where I'm going, I know what you're doing, I know what you're doing. Wait, why did you choose that color?
Yeah.
And then and then he loses me, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Where are you going now? What the fuck? Why are you using lime green? What the
Yeah.
hell?"
Lime green and magenta, then you
Yeah,
completely
yeah.
lost the lost
Yeah,
the
yeah. And
wheel.
then I'm like, but I was with you until you pulled out that magenta. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's the cool thing. But I think what's important for me as well is as we watch a lot of that stuff, that um, the Discord and what we're trying to do here in the community is not about creating content, but about
Mm.
community first.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. Is that this is meant to be that safe place where folks can uh, find out which are the right videos to watch,
Mm.
what's the right tools to buy, who are the right guys to go and speak to about the right good piece of advice on how to paint something or achieve something or build something or make something, whatever it be. And in turn, then folks learn way more in a faster manner because they're not wasting their time going through 200 videos like most of us already have,
Mm.
and rather focus on 20 excellent videos and also create a kinship and a bond with folks that are doing the same thing that you're doing. So
Yeah.
I think with that segue, we can maybe move into wrapping things up and keep this a relatively decent video so it doesn't get too long and long-winded. But yeah, I think, Albert, like I said, I just wanted to really extend a thank you to you and Julio for taking part at Comic Con and being part of the team.
Mm.
I'd love to see that get bigger. You guys must
It has
know
to.
that. Yeah,
Please.
yeah, yeah.
No,
And
I'm
look,
not saying please to you. I'm saying please to the local people. Raise your hand if you want to help for next year. We need hands.
Please, and but the thing is that we want to see the community grow, because as the community grows, we get to do things like have bigger footprints at Comic Con and do more community projects and do more Thunderbrush and work on other little projects in the pipeline that I've got that are things I'm very, very excited about. But unfortunately, those things do require a bit of a financial backing, and that's where the support comes in through the Patreon, and helping us have that opportunity to invest in better lighting. I'm sure guys can pick up the little ring in the corner there. Anyway, so yeah. So just a special thanks to everyone who has been part of the Discord so far and gotten us to where we are today, what we've achieved with Thunderbrush, and what we've now achieved with Comic Con. And to think, a year ago we were just happy to celebrate our second birthday, and now in 1 year we've done Thunderbrush, we've had Roman, we've gone to Comic Con. It's been brilliant. And yeah, hope to just continue with that momentum and keep seeing it grow and get more guys painting up Storm. As if that couldn't be a better way to wrap things up. Albert, thank you so much for your time, and
thank you.
Thanks for recording this and making sure that I don't stuff it up.
Oh, good. Well, I've got to check if it's actually all good afterwards. So,
well, yeah, let me know. Otherwise, we just have to sit down and record this all again.
All good.
But yeah, once again, thanks everyone, and I hope you guys have a great evening, and we'll see you on the Discord.
Cheers.
Here's Vale and Smith from Adventure Time.
Characters that you're working with, because as you are adding stuff to the system, taking things away, it's great to see that character sheet is like a holistic view of the game system. So that's just another thing to